Okay, I'm here. Got time for a quickie? On the show for you this week, I don't have any FOs to show you, but you had your fill during January. However, I do have several whips to show you, and I give you a little quick tour of my whip drawer. Acquisitions, I have just the one this month, my monthly weekender box from the lovely Variety of Truly Hooked. And in general podcasts, I've been talking a little bit about Level Up and the Fan Club Cal. Hello, how are you? It's a bit of a quickie tonight. It's probably going to be the shortest episode I think I've ever recorded. Set the timer, see how well I do, because the last time I said it's going to be a short one, it ended up being one of the longest. Oh, it's just been one of those weeks, you know, I've been rushing around like I can't say that, a blue-bottomed fly, as my grandma would say, and feels like I've been getting nothing done. And then I had an amazing night last night where I just powered through loads and loads of works in progress and made loads of progress on each one of them. Felt so proud. And then disaster struck, and then today, oh, it's just been one. I was actually recording earlier. I just sat down to start recording the podcast. I was like, hello, how are you? Welcome to the podcast. Oh, I haven't actually done that bit yet. I should probably do that bit. I'll do that bit in a minute. I'll tell you this, and then I'll do the whole welcome to the podcast thing. All right? You're not here for sensible. You're here for the nonsense. You know you are. But yeah, I was recording, and suddenly my phone starts buzzing and flashing, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? It's like it's been possessed by something. And I was properly freaking out, going, no, stop. Oh no, I don't know what's happening. And it was actually the lovely Eva who was ringing up for a chat. My lovely friend, who is the director of the Perth Festival of Yarn, which, you know, drink, off we go already. Within 3 minutes of the podcast, I've mentioned the P word. Yeah, but she did me a favour, because actually I realised as I was on the phone to her that I'd forgotten to put on my makeup, and I looked utterly terrifying. So there we are. You've got her to thank for the fact that I'm not frightening the bejesus out of you this evening. Okay, new viewers, if you're still here, it's okay. I promise it's okay. My name's Gemma. I am the hostess of this podcast. I'm not just some random usurper who's coming in and jabbering nonsense at you. And I am the maker of project bags, dyer of hand-dyed yarns, designer of knitting patterns, teacher of crafts, and spouter of general nonsense. If you are a new viewer, I really do hope you stick around and you haven't been terrified off already, although if you have, don't know who I'm talking to. And returning viewers, thank you so much for coming back as always. It's such a pleasure to sit and chat with you once a week and find out what you're doing, as well as showing you what I'm doing. And to that end, everywhere you can find me on the internet, and most importantly probably, the Ravelry group link can be found just down below in the show notes. I say show notes, we're going to start saying show notes at this point, because every week I upload the show notes, and then, no, I don't. No, every week I upload the podcast, and I think, right, I'm going to write the show notes. But I'm so tired by the time I've done all that I just sort of go, this is where you can find me. These are the patterns. I'll put some show notes here later. And I never do. I'm absolutely terrible like that. But what can I say? I'm only human, and spinning plates is not necessarily my forte. Every now and then one of them drops. Actually, talking about spinning plates, I also have a blog linked just down below as well, where I explore things that I don't talk about on the podcast. In theory, I've just mentioned spinning plates, but it's a little bit different. There are recipes, some tutorials, photo tutorials on there, general ramblings, musings of someone trying to find their way through this crazy world that we live in the crafty corner of the world. Okay. So, right, what should we talk about first? I want to know how you are. It's really nice seeing people talking in the Ravelry group. If you can hear that, that's just me slapping my leg. I'm terrible for things like this. I should really, like, sit on my hands or something when I'm podcasting. I'm such a fidget. Yeah, no, I'd love to know how you are, how you're getting on. It's great. I'm doing the Fiberuary. I swear that's how it's spelled. Fiberuary. Fiberuary. For someone who is like orally challenged when it comes to... No, just stop talking, Gemma. If you saw where that was going, that's on you, not on me. Right, for someone who is verbally challenged, let's go with that one, verbally challenged. Coming up with a hashtag, like this one here, that's just cruel, isn't it? I'm not going to try and say it. I'm really not. I'm going to make more of a mess of myself than I do with when I try and say the other words that I can't say, that I'm not going to try and say here either. So I'm just going to stop talking about it. What was I actually talking about? Oh, yeah, that was it. So I'm doing that challenge that I'm going to put there again because I'm not saying it. And it's really nice to see people interacting with the posts, talking back, both on Facebook and on Instagram. And obviously the Ravelry group's up there, and love to see what you're up to. Put your photos of your whips, all the rest of it. Get your whips out and, yeah, just join in the fun. So, today's tea. I am on decaf, believe it or not, and thank your lucky stars. It is, oh, it's lovely. It is Madagascan bourbon vanilla, dragonfly rubius tea. How's that for a mouthful? It's really yummy. I like decaf. I like coffee. I really like coffee. But I am trying to be a little bit more healthy. It's nothing to do with New Year. It's just me. I feel so much better. I gave up caffeine during the latter stages of my pregnancy, and because I was only having like the little bit that you're allowed a day anyway, but I gave it up completely after Lara was born, and I felt so much better for it, and I've gone back onto it, and I've slipped back into more unhealthy ways, and I'm kind of feeling it. So I just want to get back to that like light, happy, nice feeling that I get when I'm not fueled on caffeine. So cheers. So let's get into the podcast proper. It is sometime in February, the 3rd. I think it's the 3rd. That'll do. Sunday the 3rd of February. This is episode possibly 21. I'm genuinely losing count now. So yeah, don't talk to me while I'm counting stitches either. You'll just be rewarded with louder counting. Anyone else do that? In fact, actually, I saw this great meme. This is going to be a weird rambled mumblings one again. I saw this great thing on Facebook. I think it was a meme. It might not count as a meme because I don't think there was an image. It was just words, and it was a dialogue between a police officer in the control room, and he was like, you know, officer blah 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 to control, I need urgent backup please. A woman has just stabbed a man to death for disturbing her while she was counting, while she was knitting. And the control comes out, well yeah, we're sending backup, but have you arrested her yet? And he was like, no, she's still counting. That really cracked me up. I do get a little bit tetchy if I'm interrupted when counting. The other thing is I get a little bit tetchy when I'm watching podcasts on the like widescreen TV, which doesn't happen very often because I'm just so busy. And my husband will come in, and bless his heart, he'll come in to say hi, but he'll stand right in front of the screen. It's just like, move, move. Yeah, so moan over. What was I talking about? You guys talking, sharing things, Ravelry, counting. Episode number. I think it's episode 21, can't be sure. I'll put it in the title, and there we go. I'm sure you guys are taking much better attention to these sorts of things than me. For me, it's not really about the numbers. I genuinely do feel like it's my chance to sit down and have a chat with you guys, and getting to know so many of you is lovely, and it's also really exciting seeing people starting to get excited about the festival circuit coming up starting. I am actually going to be at Unravel just as a normal human yarn squisher. I'm going to be popping there in the afternoon on the Saturday, so do please give me a wave if you see me. I think I've coerced some other people to going as well, so I'll be hanging out with Corolla in the afternoon, I think. See, now I've said it now, Corolla. Well, if she doesn't watch this, then I don't know. She might do, she might not do. I'll tell her in a minute. I've announced it, so you're going. Good friend me. But yeah, So I've just edited that out because I keep scratching my face. My usual foundation has gone AWOL, which means basically I tidied it and can't remember where I put it. Logically not in my makeup bag. And I'm using this other one and it's just making my face itch. So I'm gonna be like, ah, during the podcast. You'll see me with like claw marks soon where I'm itching so badly. I might have to go and take it off, and then you'll get the haggard me. So I should have just embraced the face from the beginning. So yeah, festival circuit. I am going to be at Unravel as an ordinary human being. I am vending at Woolmonty in Sheffield in June. I will be going to Fibre East as a normal human being in July time, and I am going to Perth Festival of Yarn in September as a normal yarn squisher, and I think I might even count as a podcaster this year, so that's exciting, isn't it? Yes. If you see me, do say hi. Please do introduce yourself, because I'm a bit like a spider. I am more scared of you than you are of me. I'm incredibly shy, very socially awkward. I will probably do something completely random like squeak and make a fool of myself. So do say hi. Let me know that you're you as well. Don't do what someone did. It was so sweet, but please don't do it where someone's like said, oh, I like your jumper, and then message me on Instagram later to say, that was me. Say you're you. Please say you're you. I would love to meet you. I am a good hugger, all right? I'm a big hugger. So if you're pro contact, then hugs will be given. Absolutely. So yeah, Unravel coming up a couple of weeks' time. Right, okay, so I have no finished objects to show you, but what I can tell you is I gifted the two little bobble hats already a few days ahead of their birthday. It's not their birthday until the 9th of February, but to my gorgeous twin god babies, or as I have now been told by some people to call them, my god toddlers, because they are indeed toddlers. Two of them, age 2, simultaneously. They came to visit yesterday afternoon, which is why I'm so late podcasting, because everything stops for god toddlers. And it was a really lovely afternoon. We had the Play-Doh out and we tore up bits of newspaper and made balls and tried to throw them into my big dye pot, although my godson was more interested in getting into the dye pot, after which point his twin sister wanted to get into it as well, my goddaughter, and promptly found herself stuck. So that was a bit of a crisis, but very short-lived. And then I'm telling you all the stuff that I should be telling you in blather. Anyway, absolutely thrilled with their hats. My goddaughter was absolutely like over it, and she comes running over them going, hat, hat, and she picks them up with the pom-poms and goes, ooh. So it was just brilliant. She did exactly what I've been doing with the pom-poms, going woo with them. Yeah, don't have any photographs to share with you. Moving on then to whips. Okay, I've got the feeling it's going to be a bit of a whip tour this week. A tour of most of my whips, because actually I have been really, really proactive at getting some things done. Not finished, because no FOs. But yeah, I've been really good at getting some things done. I set myself some targets of things I'd like to achieve, and I actually did it. Yeah, me. Thank you. I thank you. Right. First up, living in my sock-sized project bag made by me. These little cute box bottom kind of triangular bags are great for notions or for one skein projects such as socks, particularly if you are using shorter DPNs or magic loop or mini circulars. Okay, oh, whole stack of business cards. Let's move those out the way. Do you like them? That's me. Cute, aren't they? So, as you know, I've already finished one of my old school socks. My lovely testers are finishing up. Hutch is finished. I think I'm going to get them the wrong way round. I think the person who is Lily Pad Life has finished hers. Bright, 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 bright pink. You need your sunglasses on to look at them. Ellen shared a picture of her finished socks and she finished them in like 3 days. I'm like, okay, all right. There is no reason for me not to have finished my own socks. So, my target was to work the heel flap and gusset and I have achieved that. So as you can see, I am now ready to start working on the foot, and who knows, by next time I podcast there may be a faux for you. You have seen this lots and lots of times before, but this is my old school sock pattern, so called after the socks that I used to wear at primary school. Everyone used to wear them. They're from M&S and lacy and white. These ones are knit out of Stranded Dye Works Vintage Christmas, which was the 2017 Christmas colourway. Absolutely loving it. This isn't how it usually looks. This was on a Ravelry D-stash as a slight second, because of discoloration of speckles. I'm not seeing it myself, but then I never saw the original. I just think it looks beautiful. So that's that, this lovely minty green with speckles. And I have that much of the yarn left, which is a good, that's probably about 50 grams still, to be honest with you. I have tiny feet, something that the lovely Amy and Ellen were like, what? Ellen asked me what size my feet were, and I told her, and it's completely random. I think it's because I posted a picture of my own feet. I'll put them here on my Instagram, like in socks, not just random feet. I don't like feet particularly. And it was like, you've got such tiny toes. Yeah, but I can get 2 full pairs of socks out of 1 skein of yarn, so I think I'm the winner here. It's also really good in the summer, all right? If you have size 3 to 4 feet, okay, and you're a woman, certainly in the UK, I don't know about anywhere else, you can buy your summer shoes from the children's section and not pay VAT. There you go, top tip. I got some gorgeous sandals a few years ago and they were an absolute bargain because there's no VAT on top of it. Next up with whips, I am going to show you a brand new design. It is a sneak peek. It's the first time I've shown anyone. I did put a little kind of taster of it onto my Instagram feed, but I am designing a patchwork cushion to teach my intermediate knitters a whole host of new skills. So they started off with my sampler cowl, which I'll put a picture of here, which is all using knits and pearls. It teaches them to cast on, it teaches them about garter stitch, stocking stitch, the importance of garter edge, ribbing, moss stitch, checkerboard, following a pattern to create a chevron. It teaches them all of those things, and a 3 needle bind off as well. So the next step, I was passing a piece of paper around. I said to them, you know, what do you want me to teach you next? And I'll pass a piece of paper around, you write down the skill you'd most like to learn, and we'll see about what we can do next, because they were already asking about the next course, which is wonderful. And it basically came back and went, oh, everything. Okay. So the challenge was on for me to find something that would teach them as many skills as possible within a certain number of weeks, and they would have something to take home with them as well. So I came up with the idea of a patchwork cushion. So I'm doing it in Aran weight yarn, which I believe is worsted if you are that way inclined. It is going to be 9 squares, so 3 by 3. I said 6 by 6 yesterday and they looked at me strangely, and now I know why. I mean 3 by 3. So 3 by 3. It will feature cables, lace, intarsia and duplicate stitch. So trying to teach as much as possible. So here is my cable pattern, my cable square. It is really quite cute, isn't it? There we are. Come on, focus please. A really simple repeat just to get them used to the idea of cabling and twisting, because there's both in here. Oh no, I'm lying to you. Cabling forwards and backwards with this one. Then we go on to this one, which I'm going to fold in half because the bottom half's a bit dodgy, because I use my actual knitting like a sketchbook. I don't necessarily sketch out the designs properly first. I just basically go for it. So yeah, the bottom half's a bit squiffy, but if I show you the top half, the nice half, there we go. You can see there is a heart. I have to go down a bit further so you can see the twist, and a cable. And there is some twisting 3 forwards in there as well. So we want one of those. Then lace, really simple old shale or feather and fan stitch, which actually looks really effective now I hold it up. There's going to be another lace pattern as well with a little flower motif in there to get them used to following charts particularly. This will get them doing decreases, which they've not done before. And then, as I said, there's going to be an intarsia panel and a duplicate stitch panel. So 2 different ways of doing colour work, although I'm desperate to get them knitting in the round. Actually, a couple of them already are. One of my beginners has knit a slithering scarf in the round, which is just so sumptuous and squishy. And she has started knitting socks, which is so, so exciting. She's an absolute daredevil when it comes to knitting. She's totally embracing all challenges. Yeah, it's just an absolute delight to see. We had a bit of fun talking about gauge this morning because one of them didn't think to swatch, and actually I didn't tell her to swatch either, bad teacher, and the blanket that should have been this wide was actually this wide. So we've had to frog that, and we're talking about what to do next, and taught her the long tail thumb method cast on. I know there's lots of different names for that, and it's just such fun teaching them, and it's been really fun creating these really simple panels to teach them a whole host of skills. So that's that whip, and next time we podcast I'll have the whole thing finished to show you. Okay, so this is where I sit up proudly and say, I told you I would. I told you. Do you remember in the last podcast I said that I would have had, no, the podcast before last, I said I was determined to break the second object issue that I have. I get bored, okay? I complete one item, one thing of a set, and I feel proud of myself, but I get bored and can't bother to do the next one. And it's not because I don't want the object, and it's not because the patterns aren't fun to knit. I'm just off onto the next thing. It doesn't matter. It's not necessarily second sock. It could be second sleeve. It could be second front of cardigan. And in this case, it was second mitten. I have the beautiful Selbu mitten by Ellie of Skein Knits, which is just absolutely gorgeous. Very lucky to be able to call her friend now as well. There we are. Look at this. I love that. That is just, isn't it? You know, she is so talented, bless her heart. And I said in the podcast before last I would at least have it cast on, and I did. I had it cast on and joined in the round. Then last week, and actually some people nagged me too, which I was really grateful for. Then last week I said I'm going to have the entire cuff done by the next time I podcast. And last night I was sitting there about 7 o'clock in the evening. I was like, oh. But ladies and gentlemen, I have done it. I have done it, and actually made a start on the main pattern as well, with some increases for the thumb gusset just there. I'm really pleased with it. I actually think my tension for this one is much better than it was for this one. I think this one's much clearer and neater. And what do you think? I think this one looks better. It might be too early to tell, but I do think this one looks better. And what I've discovered, something really interesting, right? This is science now, you ready for this? I've discovered that if my phone is out of action, as it was last night, I actually get a lot of knitting done. I think I'm a bit of an Instagram addict. I'm always like, the stories at the top, there's always something new to see, messaging friends, which is lovely. I'm not complaining, but I could do with talking a bit less and knitting a bit more. Yeah. So I had cast on and that was it. So everything else happened during the 2 hours of Ellie and Amy's live, in which they were discussing knitting elitism. It was really interesting. There were also lots of giggles, quite a few references to potatoes, which made me chuckle, and also really, really fancy chips. But I was watching that on my phone because obviously it's Instagram, and I had Ellie's chart for her Selbu mittens up on my laptop, and I just knit, and that's what happened. Amazing, isn't it? So I'm going to try and do that a bit more, have some downtime from the old Insta What's-It, and try and focus on my knitting. So there we are. Now, where shall I say I will get to by the next podcast? I am gonna like say this now near the top of the episode. I am not going to be podcasting next week. Okay, I'll tell you more about that in blather at the end, or, you know, waffle or whatever, twaddle nonsense happens at the end. I'll tell you then. But there isn't going to be a podcast next week, so it's going to be 2 weeks until I podcast again. The cushion will be done. So that is a major thing that has to happen. And there's another project that has to finish as well. So I'll leave it to you guys. How far do you think I could and should get through this mitten by next time? Do I aim to get up to there where I separate for the thumb? Do I aim to finish the first snowflake? You let me know. What do you think? Where should I get to? And that is living in my Yarns of Anarchy bag, which is my badge bag. And you can see here I've got a badge from the gorgeous Mana, Greta and the Fibres, Sealing McWheelie, that one, which is slightly rude, Unravel, and Perth last year, Perth Festival of Yarn. And I am very, very much looking forward to going back to, no, not Unravel, I'm lying, Fibre East. It's because I'm going to Unravel in a couple of weeks. Right, okay, I've got to do this again. This is Fibre East, okay? It's actually also upside down. I'm doing really well today, aren't I? There we go, Fibre East, the right way up. It's because I'm going to Unravel. I'm looking forward to going back to some of those festivals this year. Believe it or not, that is not it for whips. I have been working on my jumper for my grandma. Look, I've actually picked up for the sleeve and I'm starting to knit down it. There isn't much to show because I really don't understand the pattern. I'm going to talk about this. I have never knit a drops pattern before. When I was poorly and off work sick, I was loaned this booklet, and I'm totally going to have to buy a new one because it's looking a bit tatty now. I was loaned this booklet by my beautiful friend Myra, and she brought around a load of drops booklets for me to look at, and she was right, it did cheer me up. I was off work sick, having had my breakdown. I opened it, I went, ooh, she's a crafty one, that Myra. She's determined to get me back into knitting somehow. And I decided at great length, having worked out I wanted to knit about 100 patterns from these books that she had quite a few. I worked out that I was going to do this cover jumper for my grandma for her birthday. And I went to my local yarn store and purchased 5 balls of, in fact I had this in stash, I think. I'd bought it, no idea what to do with it. I'm just trying to unravel it a bit so I can actually show you. There we are. My local yarn store, Hop Stitch and Jumper. You can see the Kentish oast houses there. And it is Coast 100% cotton, so I thought that would be perfect for my grandma. And I started it in November of 2017, so I was starting to get my mojo back a little bit more with my knitting. I'd hoped to get it done for Christmas. I knew that was a big ask. I got down to about here, and I thought, okay, that's fine. I'll get it finished for her birthday, which is in February. I'm going to get the date wrong, so I'm not going to say it because I'm a terrible person. And by the time I went into hospital, which was actually a year ago yesterday, and was told that my daughter was going to be born extremely prematurely, I was about here. I took it with me and I did knit to about there while I was in hospital, but then I didn't pick it up at all. I toyed with the idea of picking it up before Christmas, trying to get it done for Christmas this year. I did actually pick it up I think it was about September, October time I picked it up, and you saw it on the podcast, and I finished, and I've been bemoaning my flippy bottom, which I'm going to try and sort out. There is definitely, I have the curse of the flippy bottom. It's a thing. My boxy had a flippy bottom. My beautiful bolero I made in that sparkle I was going to wear to my godson's naming day the other week, but no, my bottom was too flippy and I have a flippy bottom here. So I am plagued by the curse of the flippy bottom. And now I'm torn as to whether to call this episode Just a Quickie or The Curse of the Flippy Bottom. I might go for the flippy bottom. It's, whoa, there's my tea. It's slightly less, well, dodge, isn't it? So anyway, it is the start of February, and this morning I picked it up and I thought I didn't pick up that one, I picked up that one. I thought to myself, I can try and work down sleeves and get off of Sleeve Island. I actually did loads and undid it. If I didn't undo any of the rows that I did a row, undid it, did a row, undid it, did a row, undid it, I probably would have been about here. But I have real trouble, and this is what I wanted to talk about actually. I am really struggling to follow the drops pattern. I find the way it's written really confusing. It took me 5 or 6 goes to work it out this morning, to try and work out where they wanted you to place the marker and where the round was beginning, and because it has you pick up the stitches under the arm for that bit of the sleeve, but it's not clear if it then wants you to start there or start where they want you to place the marker, or so in the end, and I did it 3 or 4 times. I think it was pushing 5 times actually, and each time the lace was off on the sleeve, because if you look here, you can see the lace continues all the way down, and when you've picked up for the sleeves here, you're placing these ones, and each time I did it, that was off. The first one's done, the first little bobble there is done, set of eyelets, and you're picking up from like the second one, and it was off. In the end, I ignored the pattern, and I thought as long as I'm decreasing in the right places, I had the right number of stitches, so there was no reason for that to be a problem. So I thought I'm just going to ignore what it says, and I will knit the chart, but I will make sure it's placed correctly above those eyelets, and that's where I'm at the moment. And then it was time to go because it was the end of my knit and natter session, so that's as far as I've got. But again, that has to be done by like the 20th of February, because I want to have a chance to wash it, because obviously it's been on the go for a couple of years, and see if I can sort out my flippy bottom and present it nicely for gifting to my grandma. So there we are. I'd be interested to know if you've knit any drops patterns and what you think of them. I have had patterns before that I've struggled to follow, but that takes the biscuit for me. That's a little bit extreme, and also it's kind of embarrassing because I was sat there with my beginner knitters, and I'm muttering away to myself like, I don't know, like I had an invisible friend who was going to help me out, but there were no invisible friends, and no one was helping me out. And I was like, I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. I'm the teacher, and hey ho. I think they're a bit like you. They come back for the nonsense as much as anything else. Okay. Sorry, got an itch. My final whip of the week is my Crochet Eloise Girls Sweater pattern. My final whip of the week is my Crochet Girls Eloise Sweater pattern. I was doing this, as you know from last week, for a podcast viewer who was looking for someone to create this for her daughter, a really feisty little girl, and we all know how I feel about feisty little girls. And I was really, really loving it, and I was powering through. I did loads last night. After I'd done my quota for my mitten, I was hanging out online with some friends, and obviously then, because I was hanging out online, that was on the computer, I couldn't follow my mitten, so I thought, right, I'll do this one. And I have done loads. Look at that. Loads and loads. And then I was looking at it thinking, you know, oh, how clever I am. Look at how much progress I've made on this. Oh, look at me go, like a proper crafter, finishing things. And I know this is nowhere near finished, but, you know, I put a fair bit of work onto it. And then I realised I've made a mistake, and the whole thing is going to have to be frogged to here. To there. Right. Okay. If I hold it up, you might be able to see why. Fold it over. Right, put it there. Do you see that there's a ridge? There's a ridge there, and there's a ridge there, and there's a ridge there, and there's a ridge there. So this whole thing is ridged, and it looks like pleats. Now let me turn back to the beginning where I started. There's a ridge there, no ridge there. There's a ridge there, no ridge there. Ridge, ridge, ridge. Yeah, so right at the very beginning, I have clearly, trying to get used to the pattern, forgotten to crochet into the back loops, which is what creates this nice ridge on these two. Now, from a distance, it's not particularly noticeable, but close up, and even not close up, I know it's there and I can't do it. I cannot, in all good conscience, in all good, I can't. It doesn't sit well with me to just carry on. If this was for me, then I would probably just carry on regardless, but I just know it needs to be right. So all of that work right back to here is going to be pulled back and restarted. I've already spoken to Lou about it and apologised and said, you know, I'm really sorry this has happened. And she has been a total sweetie about it. Of course she has. She's so lovely. But yeah, there's my whip woe for the week. Okay, and on to acquisitions, because there have been an acquisition. In fact, there's a bit of a confession coming here. Right, ready for the podcast for confessional? Broke my yarn diet. I know. It's so bad, isn't it? What happened was, well, two things. First of all, you will remember I am on a self-imposed yarn diet. I'm doing an experiment to find out what I can lose fastest. My weight in yarn, sorry, the weight that I need to lose to be healthy, or the equivalent weight in yarn, 10 kilos basically. And yeah, so that's quite a lot of yarn to use. And the actual weight is going quite well. I have shared, well, I put on a load over Christmas, so I gained a load. But I've lost about, I've dropped my tea bag now. I've lost about 5 pounds, so that's great. I don't know what my weight, I don't do my actual weight in kilos. And yarn is going well. I've used up lots of yarn for my hats. I'm getting through this crochet top for Lou, which takes quite a lot of yarn. I've got my cushion here going on and lots of other things, socks as well. But I fell. I was on Instagram, there we go, and saw that the gorgeous Marcus, who is Fiberpunk, shared some of his Santa's Boudoir colourway that he forgot to list in the run up to Christmas, and there was like 4 skeins. It had to happen. I saw it. I'm not sure what I fell more in love with, if it was the colours, which are just absolutely beautiful, and I'll show you it when it arrives, or the fact it's called Santa's Boudoir. It's just a bit, I just, yeah, that speaks my language. That spoke to me. So it happened. There was absolutely no thought. It happened, and I am now I'm now in the position where actually I'm going to have to miss my knit night for the next 3 weeks in order to pay for said yarn, because it's okay. I don't have a lot of disposable income, and I am on this yarn diet for financial reasons as well, as much as anything else. More on that later. And I want to shop from stash. I've got beautiful yarns that I want to use. So yeah, it was a case of go to knit night, get the yarn. And in this case, the yarn won. So yeah, I'm not going to knit night for the next 3 weeks. Which that's going to be a shame not to see my pals, but it'll be okay. It'll be worth it when I get this yarn, which is actually already on its way to me. You will remember though that I said when I started this that I was still going to be getting the weekend box from Verity, and for a while that is exactly what's been happening, and this weekend I had a new box arrive. So each weekend box has a theme. So it was rainbow mini skeins to create a beautiful corner of your craft room by doing bunting the first month, and second month was oh, that was it. Second month was bonfire night, so there were sparklers and firework colourway. I did the firework hat. Third month was a beautiful variegated green to make a Christmas tree with mini Christmas trees for your tree, or something that takes your fancy. I didn't actually do that one yet. That's still hanging out in my stash. This month was about being eco-friendly. And so what's come through is the colourway called Eco Conscious, which is just stunning. On 100% Pima cotton Aran, 166 metres per 100 grams, 5 to 6 mil needles recommended, and it is just beautiful, isn't it? I love Verity's work. It's always gorgeous. So yeah, looking forward to that. And it came with a tip for a pattern, which is to make a mesh shopping bag. So I might actually have a go at that and use this to make the shopping bag and as it's intended and not just go rogue. It also came with biscuits, they're long gone, a Tea Pigs Earl Grey tea bag to enjoy while I'm creating this, and it is completely biodegradable, so it can go in your food waste bin if you have one. Okay, a reusable produce bag so that you don't have to use the plastic ones from the supermarket. And most fascinating of all to me is this, which apparently has my hair attached to it. What this is, it's an alternative to cling film. It's wax. Yeah, it's fascinating. Can you hear that? Yeah, and apparently it's really easy to use, and you use it as an alternative to cling film. Let me just see if I can wrap this around there. Oh, there you go, look, see? I've just put it around my chutney and it's stuck to itself quite happily. In fact, actually, that's more user-friendly than actual cling film. And that she said you can find instructions online for how to... there we go. She said you can find instructions online for how to wipe it and reseal it, and then you can reuse it. So I think that's just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Verity. Truly hooked. Okay, so that is it for this week. I have no more creative content, and Level Up is looking really cool. Lots of people are talking about interesting things. Linda wants to learn how to adapt vintage sewing, no, not sewing, vintage knitting patterns, because they only come in certain sizes, don't tend to have schematics, things like that. So she wants to learn about that. Other people are talking about creating shark blankets and double knitting, so do get into the Ravelry group and share what you think of there. I for myself have not done any levelling up this week. I have been focused on getting some whips done and just running around like a mad person doing all the things that I need to do, but I'll get back on it, and I'm thinking about what my level up skill will be for this month. I haven't quite decided yet what my level up skill will be for this month, but when I do, you guys will be the first to know. Follow me on Instagram, then you'll definitely be the first to know. I can't make any promises. Okay, the other thing is that the fan club Cal has kicked off. I'm an idiot, can't remember my own rules. Originally I said it would start on the 1st of February. Then last week's podcast on like the 25th of January, I was like, and it started! And everyone's like, what? When does it start? What? So anything you've cast on from the 25th of January or since then can count for the fan club Cal. The chatter thread is open. There's some very excited people in there. Go and join them and have a check out of what's going on. Post your whip pics, do the general chatter. It is a long knit along / crochet along / sew along / spin along / everything along. So I am probably going to draw prizes from that thread occasionally as well. On the subject of Cals, I have one more thing to talk to you about, and that is that I am sending a gift as prize for Trailese's book club Cal. She's running it each month. Each month there is a new book, and it's the idea that you knit or create and you read a book. Basically, it's to get us all reading a little bit more. And I have said that I will donate a prize, so I thought I would just show you this. It's a bit cheeky, haven't shown Lise yet, but anyway, I am sending one of my jumbo project bags, because you've got to have a bag big enough to fit a book and your yarn and everything in, haven't you? And the reason I'm choosing to send the owl one is quite simple. It's because when I was growing up, there was a series called Little Owl Books that helped you learn to read, and they came on cassette tapes. If you're young and can't remember what cassette tapes are, Google it. I'm not explaining it to you. You've got Google now. You're young, you can find out. And yeah, it was a really sweet theme tune that said, little owl, can I read with you? Little owl, twit, twit, twoo. Little owl books, little owl books, little owl, twit, twit, twoo. And it was about reading. And so actually I thought, what better to send along than this one? It's my jumbo project bag. It has a little thingy for my opening it. It also includes a little stitch marker that is, sorry, progress keeper, that is appropriate. Handle, big box bottom, and complimentary lining, and my personal favourite feature, which is an absolute pig to do, internal zippy pockets. So that is going to be heading over to I think I meant to send it to Lise, so I will send it across, and yeah, that's gonna be there. So if you don't follow her podcast already and you don't follow her on Instagram, do. Honestly, she is an absolute gem and so lovely and warm and friendly, and her yarns are just stunning. Don't take my word for it, go and look yourself. Her podcasts are fun. She does them in French and in English, and yeah, she's a beautiful, beautiful soul. So go and have a look at that. All right, so the only last thing I've got to tell you guys is that there is not going to be a podcast next week. I'm recording this currently on the 3rd of February. On the 11th of February, Monday the 11th of February, it is, well, is Lara's first birthday, would have been Lara's first birthday. I'm not entirely sure how I want to look at that. So I am having that weekend off for me to spend time with my husband, with the other members of Lara's family, with her godmothers and godfather. And we are just going to spend the weekend gently on our own. So I won't be podcasting that weekend. I'm going to take time for my family and to remember my little girl, especially on what would have been her first birthday. Not gonna cry, not gonna cry, not gonna cry. Yeah, so obviously that's quite an emotional time for me. I might be quite quiet on Instagram over that week. All orders placed in the shop will be posted out on the Tuesday. So if you order from the Friday through to the Tuesday, they'll be posted out on the Tuesday or Wednesday. The other thing is that I'm going to have a lot more time after next week to be more productive and do more dyeing and more project bags, because and I'm only going to touch on this really briefly. I have PTSD, okay, post-traumatic stress disorder. You've probably heard of it more commonly for soldiers who have come back from battlefields, but it can affect other people as well when they have undergone an extreme trauma. And yeah, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it now. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up to say that I am going to be around a lot more online. I'm going to be making more project bags and things, because the nature of it has meant that I am having to give up my work in the classroom. I am an English teacher by trade, and the books are just too much for me at the moment. To put it into context, right now I'm teaching Skellig, whose protagonist has a baby sister born prem and is in hospital, in and out of hospital. So there's lots of scenes like that. Frankenstein, where Victor Frankenstein creates a monster. The monster is not Frankenstein, okay? Frankenstein is the doctor, the professor, not the creation. Yeah? And so it's talking about, you know, all sorts of things I won't go into here, but galvanism and yeah, and A Christmas Carol with Tiny Tim. So it's all a bit much at the moment, and I've had to take the really tough decision to step back from the classroom for the sake of my own health and well-being. And obviously that is very frightening as well, because it means that I am leaving a job with income and throwing myself out there to see what fate has in store for me. Yeah, and throwing myself completely on the mercy of the project bag, and you know, hopefully you know, it'll all be okay. I'm sure it will be. But yeah, so I'm going to be around a bit more. I am probably going to be quite quiet, certainly over the next week, possibly the next 3 or 4. Lara was with us for 32 days. So yeah, when we get to March, there'll also definitely be a week off there. I'm not entirely sure if I will podcast every week or every other week for the next month. I'm just going to see how it goes, if that's all right with you guys. What am I saying? Of course it's going to be all right with you guys, isn't it? I'm just going to see how I go. Take it one day at a time as we move through this particularly tricky period of Lara's first birthday and the first anniversary of when she left us. Yeah. So, I'm going to sign off now, and yeah, sorry for getting all emotional on you. I hope you are well. I hope you're having a lovely week, and I hope you are making all the things and join in with Fan Club Cal and join the Ravelry group, and I will see you in a couple of weeks' time, okay? Take care. Love you all. Bye.